With today's review, we will start to take a detailed look at the Culture series written by Iain M. Banks. Consider Phlebas is the first volume of 10 in total, if we use Goodreads' way of counting the short story collection The State of the Art as volume number 4, which I will do if not for any other reason than 10 being a neat round number. The 467-page long book Consider Phlebas was published in the year 1987, and the story can be placed on the softer side of the sci-fi Mo scale since we are talking about a space opera here. Nonetheless, when it comes to space operas with the usual tropes of faster-than-light travel, force fields, etc., Consider Phlebas still retains a modicum of scientific grounding. The world building is quite vast, as one would expect from a space opera, but it is a bit more restrained compared, for instance, to the works of Peter F. Hamilton. To be fair, Hamilton also simply tends to write significantly longer novels, giving him more pages to develop his narrative worlds in more depth. In terms of originality, Consider Phlebas delivers quite a few intriguing points, beginning at the overall backdrop of the plot, which we will obviously discuss in more detail later, over the impact of reliance on technology and religious zealotry on a galactic scale, all the way to the somewhat unorthodox choice of the protagonist. Which brings me to the scores related to the dramatis personae, which is somewhere in the middle since Consider Phlebas sports a roster of roughly a dozen relevant characters, with one sole main protagonist. Regarding its critical reception, a cursory search related to any awards or award nominations did not turn up anything noteworthy. In contrast, the Culture series in general has achieved somewhat of a cult status with science fiction fans. However, Consider Phlebas, as its first entry, scores a combined rating of 3.9 out of 5 stars based on 10,000s of Goodreads, LibraryThing and Amazon reviews. While this is by no means a terrible score, it is one of, if not the lowest rating of the entire series. Adaptations-wise, it was announced in early 2018 that Amazon acquired the global television rights to Consider Phlebas. At that time, Dennis Kelly and Plan B Entertainment were supposed to turn Consider Phlebas into a television series. The project was ultimately cancelled in the middle of 2020, which might be a good thing considering Amazon's recent track record with science fiction and fantasy adaptations. The story of Consider Phlebas takes place during chaotic times of a war. The Culture, a galaxy-spanning post-scarcity civilization composed primarily of various humanoid species as well as artificially intelligent sentient machines, is in a war of survival, fighting against the aggressive and religiously driven Idiran Empire. The changer Bora Horza Gobuchul, who acts as an operative for the Idirans after they rescue him from execution, is tasked to retrieve a Culture mind, one of their more sophisticated sentient AIs, which is hiding on Shar's world. Since this barren planet is under the protection of the nearly godlike Dra Azon, who deny access to the Culture and Idirans, sending a changer is one final gambit. Throughout his mission, Horza has to fight for his survival numerous times, experiencing firsthand the dangers and perils of a galactic war, facing pirates, criminals, deranged cultists, and all the while being hunted by Culture agents. As you can see from this short plot summary, the backdrop of Consider Phlebas could easily fill several tomes, since there are potentially dozens of interesting and intriguing stories that would be worthwhile to explore in more detail. If you were expecting something like that, then I will have to disappoint you though. Even with this vast universe and intriguing world building, Consider Phlebas is mostly focused on its single protagonist Horza. We get a couple of glimpses of the wider conflict between the Culture and Idiran Empire through his eyes, but I have to confess in my view it could and probably should have been more. Furthermore, another point of criticism is the fact that Horza as sole protagonist can only be described as a mix of an anti-hero and anti-villain, depending on what perspective we take here. This in itself is not necessarily a bad thing. However, Horza, at least in my view, is simply written as a character with lacking charisma, charm, and just a minimum of redeeming qualities. This also extends to most of his mercenary compatriots who end up supporting him throughout his mission. As a result, I was therefore not really invested in Horza's story, and I presume this might be the main reason for Consider Phlebas scoring one of the lowest ratings of the entire Culture series. All negativity aside, Consider Phlebas has also a lot to offer with regards to deeper philosophical questions. One example is the potential over-reliance on technology coupled with the question related to the place for humans, or rather humanoids, in a society driven by advanced sentient AIs. Another noteworthy aspect relates to the minuscule to futile impact that the bravery and sacrifice of individuals has in the grand scheme of history. While all of this takes place on a forsaken, uninhabited world devastated by a past nuclear war. There are certainly tropes and themes in Consider Phlebas that are worthy of being pondered long after having finished the novel. Overall, Consider Phlebas delivers an interesting first impression of the culture as a literary universe with numerous original and interesting concepts and ideas with huge potential, even though the main characters could certainly be better. Nonetheless, it is telling that one of my main criticisms of the novel is that we did not explore the universe of the culture in more detail. Fortunately, we have 9 more books waiting for us. If you liked this video, you may also enjoy the other reviews and content on my channel. Feel free to leave a comment if you want to discuss the novels or if you want to suggest other books that I should review in the future. Please consider upvoting and subscribing, it is much appreciated. Thank you for watching and until next time.